Hello, and welcome to New Teacher Talk, where we bring you essential conversations and tips to support aspiring and early career teachers. Whether you teach in a big city, a small town, or anywhere in between, we're here to help you succeed in your classroom.
My name is Byron Earnest, and I'm the founder of Leadery Global, a professional service firm that provides support and leadership development for schools. I'm a former agriculture science teacher, principal, superintendent, and presently serve on the Indiana Board of Education. Today, I'm going to talk about focusing on student engagement and teaching using a relevant context. It is just common sense that the more students are engaged, the more they will see the relevance of their experience, feel connected to their school experiences, and develop more positive attitudes and attributes. Learning in a relevant context is also a critical part to student engagement. I know I was that student in the back of the room who would have his hand up, wanting to know why I was learning some particular subject. True engagement happens when students discover that learning is a personal endeavor. Learning can only become personal when it is in a context that connects the learning to the student's real life. In other words, as I always say, schoolwork must be like and look like real work. For example, you might use pumpkins this fall for learning numbers, number sense, and counting for kindergartners. It doesn't have to be elaborate, it just needs to be personal and real for the students. For high school students, we need them solving real world problems and issues. For example, I was just in a school where the students were planning a community garden. They're using almost every core subject to put the plan together. They're doing the math for the areas, the seed populations, and how much area they need for the amount of people who have told them they're interested. They've needed business and marketing to actually market these gardens. They've needed their ELA classes in order to begin to write up articles about this or letters to people telling them about the potential with this. Additionally, I've done work with a school here in Indiana that has a sole focus of teaching students in the context of soccer. Think about if you're an interested student and an athlete of soccer and you can learn all of your subjects around soccer. That's very real to those students. The possibilities are endless for engaging students in a context that's relevant to the world in which they live. I know for me, one of my fondest memories was from teaching welding when we would do projects like ramps, for example. And if you think about a ramp, it's basically a triangle, a right triangle. And we were always building those for someone who needed those ramps. And I would usually only give them the measurements for two sides of that triangle or ramp. And they would come to me and want to know where the third one was. And I said, well, don't you have a way of figuring that since that's a right triangle? It didn't take them very long to come back with that, gosh, that was the Pythagorean theorem. And then they would always say things like, so that's why we learned that, or that's why we learned geometry. That's that real world relevance that I believe is so very important. And those are super fun light bulbs to have come on in the students. As we continue to think about making learning relevant for students, we need to remember what is changing for the student of today. There is a broadening of skills needed for high value careers, a quickening pace of skill dynamism, and a rerouting of pathways to economic and social mobility. Also, we need to keep in mind that to have our students ready for the future of work, that first, technology won't be the only big changer. Skill mixing, or what is now being called a hybrid genome, is going to be important. In other words, students need to have a multiple set of skills in their toolbox. Students will no longer need those single skills. Students can't just have skills in abstract. Core skills cannot be agnostic. We can't just be learning math for the sake of math. We can't just be learning our language arts just for the sake of that. We need to be learning them in some relevant way. When students make the connection from true engagement, they begin to understand the lessons and tasks are worthwhile because they help them meet personal goals they have begun to set for themselves, not just the teacher's goal for them. Engagement and relevancy enable students to own their own learning. One of the activities that I have teachers do during professional developments that I do is to develop their own definition for student engagement and relevancy. I would encourage you to pause this podcast right now and create your own definition of student engagement and relevancy. Make a quick draft that you can continue to iterate later. I hope you created your own definition of student engagement and relevancy. Allow me to share my own definition of engagement and relevancy that I used when I was teaching. Students learn best from passionate and energetic teachers who are prepared and creative. Students learn best when the material is relevant to the world they live in, and students learn best when they believe the teacher genuinely cares about them. Now, that was my own personal definition of engagement and relevancy, but you should have your own personal definition. And there aren't any definite right or wrongs here. It's that you need to have really thought intentionally about what that relevancy and engagement look like for students. After creating that definition, I have teachers culminate their work by developing a graphic recording of their definitions. Some of the key points I have seen them put on graphics that I want you to consider are connections, collaboration, engaging manipulatives, higher level questions, having students teach students, problem solving, student choice, agency and agency in learning, differentiation, and including interests of the students. If you think about all of those are really big things that our students need. They need those connections and collaborations. They need us to have engaging activities for them. And we need to be thinking about those activities being higher level and really making the students, again, think about real issues, real problems that are out there. Don't forget the power of students working as groups or teams. And then student agency is so important for me. When you can let students choose what they're doing and what maybe those projects are or have some choices, that is very important to engaging students and will really help them be interested. Think about yourself. If you get to have some say in what you're doing, you become much more interested in that. Here's the deal. If we want students to be engaged, we must have students working in teams to experience and explore relevant real-world problems, questions, issues, and challenges. Then have them create presentations and products to share what they have learned. Student motivation comes from lessons facilitated, utilizing, and encouraging student creativity, innovation, and problem solving. Again, I wish you the best of luck as you begin your teaching career. It is so fun. I am so excited for you for what you're endeavoring. I remember those first few years very vividly. Yes, there was a lot of work. Yes, there were stressful moments, but oh, the places we can go when we're doing that teaching and when we're helping our students become all that they can be.
Thanks for spending part of your day with us on New Teacher Talk. Stay in the loop by following @New Teacher Talk on Instagram and Blue Sky. That's where we share our Tuesday teacher resource and Thursday thoughts. If today's chat was helpful, hit the follow and share it with your teaching squad. No matter what classroom you're in, we're here for you.